Hello, welcome to Spilling the IT. I know what you're thinking. You're like, wait a second. Don't you guys usually have a countdown timer with music that's pretty bad? It's true. Normally we do, but today, no time. We're busy people. So sorry if you were excited about pre-show music and some amazing graphics, and all of a sudden you just skip both our faces. Sorry for that disorientation. I'm Paul Burke. That's Adam Burke. This is Spilling the IT. We're talking tech, information in the channel news. We're both with Quest Technology Management. That is also a very important thing to mention. Adam, what's going on?
Well, we got a energy pipeline shut down on the East Coast. A little ransomware situation going on. Oil prices spiking. I don't know if anybody ever watched Die Hard, but it'd probably be a good time to rewind and check that one out. Get the fire sale going on. It's an interesting time right now. Definitely interesting time. Ethereum just went above 4K a coin, and
What?
it's all sorts of $4,000 a coin over
Wow.
that. It's crazy. It's craziness. We
Wow.
had Elon Musk on Saturday Night Live talking about Dogecoin to the moon. He's financing, rocket ships blasting out of the Earth's atmosphere on Dogecoin and crypto. It's just shenanigans abound, and I'm happy to be here, Paul. And I like your new on-air graphic there in the back behind your head.
Look at that. Look at
classy.
that level of professionalism. Adam, did you see the sketch about Dogecoin when he said to the moon? Did you watch that?
No, I just saw the clips on Twitter of him kind of dressed as he kind of had like a nerd, like suspenders on or something like that, and then
Yeah.
like a to the moon kind of thing. I didn't quite get what that was about, but
So
yeah.
So he was brought in as an expert. I know we got to keep this moving, so I'll make it pretty quick. He was brought in as an expert to talk about Dogecoin. And what I loved is the two hosts just kept asking him, so what is it? And he could never really answer it. I thought it was very, very funny. He's like, oh, well, it's a new form of money that's existing. And they're like, but what is it? So it was very enjoyable. I enjoyed it.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
No, but they got another reminder just in the news. I saw it yesterday morning on Sunday that pretty significant utility organization that supplies, oil and gas services, the East Coast, basically shut down production.
45%. I heard they moved 45% to the East Coast, which is pretty unsettling.
Yeah, and they had state of emergency in a few of those locations and all sorts of stuff. I don't know when we're going to get the real story, but it's definitely developing right now. So hope everybody's staying safe and being okay. But that's real world stuff that bad actors and people taking advantage of vulnerabilities in the system, or they're gonna keep going. So it's definitely want to keep your head on a swivel.
Yeah. So so we'll definitely keep up to date on that and let you guys know what happens for sure when we find out more. So Adam, you wrote a blog post a few years ago, and I wasn't sure about the date, but then the first sentence it helps me quite a bit figure out the date of this. The start of this article is Game of Thrones recently kicked off its 4th season. So I think this is probably at least 4 or 5 years ago, probably 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was 2015 timeframe. Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah, 2015, 2016. Yeah. Maybe
it's
before that.
Ecosystem or a feudal system. And so
yep.
What we thought would be fun is to go through this and 6 years ago, see what Adam 6 years ago kind of predicted was going to happen and what actually happened. And a couple things. So you likened all these companies to different members of or different families within Westeros. I also really love the part, I just need to quote this, where you say, for those of you who remember Western civilization courses, it's basically a feudal system under the mercantile rule of a corruptible monarchy bordered on the north by snow zombies. You know those classic Western civ classes that talk about northern snow zombies, right? Well, this is
so
classic...
the analogy, Well, the analogy was the mercantile, feudal system basically, it was old school with a little bit of, I'm a nerd. It's fun. I don't know. It doesn't translate into writing very well, but yeah, the families of Westeros. I actually had to write, some of these blogs. You get writer's block. You don't know what to write about. You get, you're trying to build a channel program. You're trying to talk to partners. You're trying to listen to vendors, and Game of Thrones was on. I think I had a 1-year-old daughter at the time. There was a lot of sleep going on. Let's not judge too much here, all right? Before we get
Hey,
too far into this.
no judgments. I just love the idea that in a UC Davis course, they are in Western Civ be like, listen, you got to be aware of the northern snow zombies because they are trouble. Most
They are.
societies fall under the snow zombies.
Yes. Yes.
So,
So
so at the top, the Lannisters are AWS. Is that correct?
yeah. So in the show, the Lannisters are extremely well funded, rich folks. Oh, that's cool. Nice graphic, Paul. Very well done.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Look at
very,
that
very well funded.
seamless editing.
They're extremely wealthy and influential organization, and they're competing for the Iron Throne.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we made a little bit of an analogy to AWS kind of having a way to disrupt the market with unlimited amounts of capital. I think on their balance sheets, they turned operating leases into assets. So they're playing all sorts of games. And back then, I think is when AWS first
They're
started being profitable.
yeah, their
Yeah, they
first
had just
profitable
started
quarter.
becoming, yeah. And that's kind of it was a financial game that they were kind of just manipulating their balance sheet to present how they wanted to present, which they had the right to do that. And they were really throwing off the infrastructure as a services um, model. We were coming at it from a value-added reseller model. We had been selling hardware for a long time, and it was really disrupting some of the VAR ecosystem of people just being able to subscribe to capacity as they wanted to. So that was a big shift. A lot of people moving their workloads to AWS.
Mm-hmm.
So tied them to the big players there at Westeros of the Lannisters, right?
So
Well funded.
AWS is the Lannisters. Let's go to the House Stark, the North,
Oh
which
yeah.
is Old World. That is, and you were saying that is Cisco, correct?
Well, not old world in the sense of not kind of on the forefront, but at that time we were dealing with people trying to move to subscription based. It's funny to talk about this now, but because it's so common in everything that we do. But 6 years ago, it was a new idea in the world of Cisco and some of the larger technology vendors, even Microsoft to some extent, to bill for their services on a subscription monthly reoccurring basis. That was a new
That's
shift,
amazing. That's
which is
amazing that
weird.
that was just 6 years ago, and that was such a novel idea.
Yeah, well, they successfully did it, and it's interesting to see like Microsoft. So I always butcher his name, but the CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, I
Sasha
think
Nadella?
Satya Satya Nadella.
I don't know.
His comp was big on CNBC. We were talking about last week was his comp now
Mm-hmm.
is directly tied to the performance of Microsoft Teams. So I'm going to be really curious to see how Microsoft continues to go after players like Zoom and Ring Central and all the UCaaS players out there because their CEO, comp tends to drive behavior, at least in sales. Their CEO's comp is now directly tied in to the performance of their Teams platform, which is pretty cool. So that's gonna be fun to see how that develops. But yeah, back to the blog post. Back 2015 was still relatively new.
Mm-hmm.
CSP, cloud service provider models were a new thing, and we were going through that transition with Cisco powered cloud services. A lot of that infrastructure as a service kind of went away in the Cisco world, but
Mm-hmm.
what's cool is they have created that subscription based pricing for a lot of their other services. Like we've continued that partnership, obviously, um, and we are a Cisco managed security solution provider, right? So MSSP, So not necessarily standing up a Cisco powered cloud in the sense of it's a bunch of UCS, but we are a managed services security provider for them, which is great. Tons of cool consumption capacity there for them.
And then you also mentioned House Baratheon, which, let me get the quote. House Baratheon, with its divergent leadership and propensity to find itself in multi front conflicts, falls to VMware. So, not in the sense that it falls to VMware, but that is VMware is representative of House Baratheon. Is that correct?
Well, that was because they
6 years
were they
ago.
were kind of go 6 years ago. Yeah, they were going through a little bit of a identity crisis and how they were going to deliver what they were going to deliver. They had traditional resellers, they had managed service providers, they had system integrators, they had their own in-house teams that were doing things,
Mm-hmm.
and then you throw in Dell, and that whole process. They had multiple fronts they were trying to figure out how to leverage all the great things VMware has been doing, for the years in the virtualization space and the virtual desktop space and in automation for systems. But they had tentacles and kind of business plans, spread out throughout the channel. So it wasn't really clear, where their kind of long-term plan was gonna land.
Yeah, because you mentioned they were kind of like fighting battles or things on multiple fronts. They had the end user, they were working on data center levels issues. So, yeah.
Yeah, they were working on multiple fronts, but they're also having to defend on multiple fronts because at the same time, this was back when you know a lot of people were going OpenStack and a lot of people were trying to invest in that platform. Red Hat Linux was going after a big chunk of the infrastructure as a service business and how everyone was going to subscribe to that and pay for that, and it was it's it's still going on right now as far as how people are controlling the end user and the experience and everything like that.
Hmm. Um, so let's talk. So a couple of the carriers you mentioned, or one of the characters you mentioned was TW Telecom, who you were saying
Yeah.
kind of like hitched their wagon to AWS. Um, how did things work out for TW Telecom?
Well, they got bought. I think they got scooped up.
Hmm.
They got acquired. A lot of people have been acquired in the last 5 or 6 years. A lot of organizations, the carrier world has done direct connects and express routes and helping their clients get from their existing data center to a cloud environment, or just kind of doing those direct connections. So TW Telecom, they got acquired, um, but their footprint, their infrastructure, everything that they built out there is still out servicing the market. It's just now under a different brand, and there are still a lot of organizations doing those direct connects and those express routes to either the Azure or the AWS of the world. So
Hmm.
one thing that was really surprising the last 5 years is the adoption of Azure compared to AWS. I think that one, if you look at a chart as far as the adoption over the last 5 years,
Hmm.
that was really surprising. Microsoft did a pretty amazing job, competing in that space and taking a chunk of the market with them as they kind of started growing there. That was definitely something we invested in from a partnership standpoint. I was looking at our Microsoft numbers just as a cloud solution provider, definitely straight up to the right, over the last 3 years especially, but then especially and during the last year with COVID, that spiked as well. So
Because Azure, I mean, if I don't know the numbers or percentage, and maybe you can help me out on this. So AWS was was there for a significant number of years before Azure really even came in to the environment to start to compete, correct? So it
yeah,
was
yeah,
kind of an
they
AWS world that Azure was like, we're going to carve out a niche, and that has grown significantly.
Yeah, it's definitely grown significantly. I don't, in Microsoft, does what Microsoft does, and chooses the markets, where they want to invest their leverage. Um, and you hear about the big contracts like the Jedi contract and everything like that. where that was at AWS, and then you know things changed, and all of a sudden, Microsoft had that multi-billion-dollar contract. Uh, but from a percentage standpoint, uh, it was pretty surprising to see how dominant Microsoft became coming into that space, and throwing their weight around for sure.
Do you see new players coming in to compete for this Westeros environment? Because you mentioned there's been a lot of acquisitions, like TW Telecom was scooped up, many others have been scooped up. Do you see new players coming in, or just kind of like a further consolidation in the future?
It's definitely consolidating, but organizations are coming in, and new ways to engage are coming in as well. So you still have, we didn't talk about Salesforce, we didn't talk about Oracle, we didn't talk about any of the large legacy, IBM. I think I saw, this was weird. I don't know if you saw this commercial, but I think it was Timberland was on an IBM cloud commercial.
No, I didn't see that.
Didn't
I know
didn't
what I'm
co-
going to
didn't see
look
that
up
one
on
coming.
YouTube after this,
Didn't
but
see that one coming. But yeah, it's Timberland on a
wait,
like a
music
mixing table.
music producer Timberland?
I think is there an L? I,
Yeah,
I never
Timberland.
pronounce it right.
Yeah, no,
Timberland.
you're right.
Okay. So yeah. Anyways, but he's on an IBM cloud commercial and talking about like applications, integrating with databases, integrating with, security. And so you got a legacy IBM, big blue, like 1950s organization that's been
Mhm.
around forever. Not 1950s, but even before that. Um, but they're leveraging hybrid cloud models. Um, you have Salesforce, acquiring. I think they acquired. We talked about them acquiring Slack and getting into the communications,
Mhm.
collaboration space. It's just, yeah, there's constantly new challenges, and what makes it exciting is you have, not exciting in a good way, but you have bad actors like the guys attacking the energy sector, today, that are poking holes in existing systems. So there has to be something to rise up to help prevent that in the future. So that could be the legacy systems, it could be new stuff, it could be different ways to transact money, it could be the crypto services. It's all constantly evolving. So it was fun to write that article about 6 years ago. I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan, and it's very Machiavellian type of a world, and I think a lot of that goes on in the technology space. I think that's a big, everyone's kind of frenemies in the world. So
I love it. I think it's a great article. We're going to link to it as well, so you can kind of see what it's a nice time capsule of what was happening 6 years ago as well. So it's the link is in the description if you want to jump over to our website questsys.com and read about that. And yeah, Adam, anything else you kind of wanted to dive into and or dissect about that article? Because you mentioned quite a few things. So if there's anything else you want to talk about,
I had fun talking about how Facebook was a bank. You know, that was
yeah,
cool.
I noticed that. Yeah,
That was back in the day, um, which is fun, and they're still thriving and doing well. A
yeah,
little
they're
bit
doing okay. They're
controversial.
doing okay.
They're doing good. They're
Hmm.
doing good.
Hmm.
Good for them. Zucks, as I call them, Zucks, and give them a call. But yeah, no, I think that's pretty much it, Paul. If you want to link to that, again, like we always talk about, if anybody needs help with anything out there, ir@questsys.com.
Hmm.
You can reach, both of us, www.questsys.com, for any of our contact information or anything that we do. And then, I think we got a new feature coming out. Well, actually, someone on our team brought to our awareness, as far as like, questions you would ask. So we're gonna maybe send out a little poll around doing some Q&A. Would love to do like a live segment. I don't know if we, you know, uh, broadcast that as part of this, or as an individual, uh, uh, kind of a talk track. But I think the Q&A session would be great to do that live. Or
Yeah,
ask
love
me
it. A
anything, I think it was called.
little AMA, a little ask me
Ask
ask.
me, yeah, that was it. Ask, yeah, so that'd be good. And then I think what would be good, bring on some other people from Quest to do Ask Me Anything as well.
I
So
love that. I think that's great.
yeah.
Um, real quick, we got a couple minutes. Adam, what are you watching? Anything worth sharing?
There's a Jupiter thing
Oh,
on
Jupiter Legacy or
Jupiter Legacy. Yeah, I watched the
Jupiter's
first two of
Legacy.
that one.
Pretty
Jupiter's
good.
Legacy. Yeah, yeah. It's got the dude from. Actually, it's got ironic. It's got the bad guy from Die Hard,
Oh,
where they did the fire sale. The main character is the same dude who played the bad guy in Die Hard. So
no,
the plot
really?
that's going out in real life right now is the bad guy from Die Hard he's the main character in that one.
Oh, very
I don't know
cool.
his name. I'm really bad at that. I'm People Magazine. That's not my thing,
I don't
but
know.
I could recognize him. Yeah. So that's what I
Nice.
got.
Cool. I got to check that
Yeah.
out. Just started Boardwalk Empire, so I know I'm very late to that party. But
Oh,
yeah, I can already tell. You know those shows when you watch the first episode, you're like, well, I'm in it for all 5 seasons because this seems amazing. This is that show for me. So I can already tell.
that's good. That's good. It's got the little history kind of aspect to it, and
Yeah, you feel like you're
kind of
learning
has that.
something between all the violence. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
You're like, oh, they murdered a lot of people back then. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, interesting. Yeah,
Wow, the 1920s were violent. I'm learning a lot. Um,
yeah.
all right. So again, we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for hanging out. Again, you can always reach us at questsys.com. The phone number is also in the description as well. We would love to help you. That is our motto. How can we help with whatever situation you're dealing with? And yeah, Adam, anything else?
No, I think that's it. It's good catching up with everybody, and thanks for walking through the old blog topic. That was fun.
Yeah, cool. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good one. Bye.